During a series of podcasts, the President of ESC, Deputy Andrea Dudley-Owen, speaks to Express about her committee's mandate and the future of education in Guernsey. Our first conversation touched on ChatGPT and the future of technology in the classroom and during early years development. She says while the introduction of increasingly powerful AI is concerning, its incorporation into the school setting aligns with the digital roadmap, which outlines how technology should and can be used to benefit the learning experience. A second national kind of story that's it's international, it's kind of worldwide now, is this conversation about ChatGPT, and we've been working on a story for the last month or so, talking to teachers and education providers about the concerns that were raised about students using AI in their essay writing, in their schoolwork. It's a real fear among some people. I mean, how can that, are there plans to kind of combat that? Is that discussion being had?
Yeah, actually, I'm smiling because my colleague, Deputy Haskins, I think he might mention this in most meetings. It is very much starting to come on our radar because it's been there in the background for quite some time, hasn't it? But the release of the ChatGPT has accelerated this conversation right to the forefront.
So fast.
And it's gone really fast, and the concerns are around the output and what the possibilities are with that, the negative possibilities as well as the positive ones, and how that is managed within an education space. Of course, we know currently that technology only produces the quality that is input into it as well, which is a concern. And we're trying to teach our students to be critical thinkers. How can they be critical thinkers if they haven't been able to think of the content themselves? So how do we teach them how to use the technology wisely, at the right time, in the appropriate way? And this is all around the work that we want to do, which is supported by the digital roadmap, because it's not just about the infrastructure and the hardware upgrades. This is about how you use digital technology responsibly to get the best out of it, because it is around behaviour as well. And I think that in terms of how this manifests itself in the school environment might mean a return to what we could consider certain traditional methods, maybe of much more high stakes exams, rather than coursework and an examination as part of that. That's how it could manifest itself. But obviously, if we're talking about GCSEs or A-levels or BTEC and that sort of thing, we don't. Those aren't our specific qualifications. Whilst we run those over here because they're recognised denominations, we use exam boards from the UK. So that's very much a conversation that needs to be had obviously in the UK, and we need to be paying heed to what's going on over there and how this is impacting in our schools and the output in terms of what students are producing, because it is worrying, because you want students to have the skills to be able to write, to be able to listen, to be able to discuss, to be able to look deeper into a subject,
come up with their own ideas.
Absolutely. And we know that depth of understanding actually comes with maturity and age as well, and so the more you layer on the knowledge and the skills, the deeper the understanding will be for the person. And therefore your base education, certainly from early years, has to be really strong, and we're building that up, and then every single layer has to be commensurately strong, but actually it's your fundamentals that are really important. If I'm just going off the topic slightly of AI, but looking at the impact of digital devices on our little people, we have seen that there has been a detrimental outcome from over reliance on digital babysitting, so to speak. So that when parents might give their little one a device, and that little one is watching, I don't know, Peppa Pig or octonauts or whatever it is on their little devices, and they're swiping, and they're using their thumbs. That means that the motor skills that child has in their hand are not as good as they should be. The strength isn't there in terms of the muscle to be able to hold their pen, or we call it a mark maker, so their crayon. And so when they're coming into the school environment, they're not as learning ready as we would like them to be, as we need them to be, as historically we have. When you and I, Matt, were different ages, but when we went to school, we didn't have the devices, the fine motor skills that, because we didn't have a reliance on digitisation and we weren't put in front of the screens to the extent that children are nowadays, we went to school with better fine and gross motor skills than we're seeing now coming into our schools. And that, coupled with a reliance on artificial intelligence, is really concerning.
And confusing, surely. I mean, it moves incredibly fast. All this stuff does.
And we have to try and keep up with that, in addition to all of the other social stuff that we have to keep up with, which is different from how it has been previously. I think that we're operating in a world which has seen more changes, more profound and significant changes in a shorter time frame than we have in a few hundred years. And this fourth industrial revolution has got some benefits to it, has got some advantages, but it's also got an awful lot of downside. And that's where we need to be pulling together as a community. That's where we need to be supporting our new parents and saying, actually, start teaching the nursery rhymes. Do not give a device to your little one. Generally, it's about, kids under the age of 6 should not have a device that they have as a handheld. They just shouldn't have it, because it has such a detrimental effect on their development. And, watching an iPad with mum or dad or granny or big brother is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about sitting in a chair for a considerable amount of time, day after day, swiping on a screen, having that stimulation from an artificial feed. It is really not... It's going to have damaging effects on our community, on interaction, on our ability to have a workforce that has the skills and the knowledge and the aptitude that we need it to have a successful Guernsey if we're not careful.
It's a attention span too. I was reading about how it's good to have your child be allowed to be bored from time to time, so they can start to generate their own kind of entertainment and interaction.
Well, that's where creativity often comes from, is allowing yourself to have moments of, or minutes, hours of boredom. And that is where you want that creativity, because we know that critical thinking and creativity are skills that are really valued in the workplace. So we need to enhance those. But again, the states can't do all of this. The education system can't deliver it all. It's got to come from the community as well. We need to work in a holistic way. It takes an island to raise a child in Guernsey, and we've got to start thinking that way, supporting each other to embrace the ways that we know work for us best. And the adoption of new technologies is not always going to be a positive thing for us.
Thank you for listening to the Bailiwick Express podcast. The title track was Shift My Weight by Luno. If you enjoyed it, I know it's a pain, but please like and share. It all helps, and remember, you can hit bailiwickexpress.com to stay right up to date with whatever is happening in the Bailiwick. You can find us online, on social, on email, and on internet radio. There'll be more from me, Matthew Leach, and all the Bailiwick Express team next Friday.